Hey guys, welcome back to another dev blog. Number 4, I believe it is. Yeah, number 4. Welcome guys to another game engine dev blog today. Hope you guys are doing great and doing wonderful, and you're doing your thing. So let's do a little recap of what I did in the last dev blog. I've updated the shaders, right? I still need to make it so that you read it from a file instead of reading it from the SpearV header class, because like I mentioned before, that's not the best way when it comes to using it when you're releasing the game. So that's something I still need to do. But I'll probably put that as something I need to do later on. I added fog. Fog is back. Particle systems, the explosions are back as well. And using the rendering instancing for them. Post effects, as I mentioned before. I added bloom. And that's it, actually. That's all I added. But it has the functionality to add other ones, so I just need to create the shaders for it. And there was a bug that I mentioned about the post effects. When you shoot an asteroid, it would actually... the bloom just disappears. So I figured out the issue for that, and it's so weird, but it is what it is. So what happens for some reason for that is that I'm doing some push constants for that when it comes to determining the strength. I can actually show you real quick. So they have their own values. So like how strong the bloom should be. Where do I have this at? It should be here. Yeah. So I have some values that I'm setting for them. So how the threshold, the scale, and the strength. For some reason, before I had this, I commented out, but before I was doing this thing that's commented out, where it only pushes the push constant when it is when there's new updates, right? Because you don't want to. I didn't want to keep pushing the constant. I didn't want to keep pushing the constant all the time when there's no updates, right? But for some reason, it loses the previous values. So, and it's weird that it happens when you shoot an asteroid, and that's when exactly it happens. For some reason, it loses whatever's happening. I know there's probably something internal that's going on, or maybe this is normal. I haven't really dug deep into it yet, but for now, I'm just pushing it all the time. And it's not that big, so it should be okay. And the issue never happened again. So I will need to do some more research and figure out why that is the thing, right? But for now, leaving it as is. But yeah, that's about it. That's like the previous recap of number 3. So today, as you read in the title, I added networking into this. I never thought I'd actually see networking in my space shooter game, but yeah, the last 2 weeks I spent on doing this. It's just something very simple, and it's just like the first iteration for this networking. I built it from the bottom, not using any third-party libraries except for the Windows socket API. So I'm using the WSA for it to connect to the server. To use the connections for the sockets, and that's about it. So that's what I'm using for that, and I'm gonna guide you through the code a little bit. So this can be a little bit me showing you a little bit of the code of the high level. I'm not gonna go too deep into it. So yeah, so let's start with this network manager class. This is what handles all the things networking related, as a manager should. So let's go into here. So we'll look at some functions, and we'll do some things. So this is going to be a client to server type of networking. It's not a peer-to-peer. That's what I decided to choose to go first. So it's a client server to client type of connection, and then it's using TCP right now, and I'm going to be looking to see doing like UDP in the future. But Yeah, this is just giving you guys what it's doing right now. I have this function that loads using the server settings. I don't have that yet. I just manually input it, but I have a to do to say, hey, read it from a file, and then set it up that way. So that's the plan. And then you will connect, right? You'll call to connect using if you wanted to use the settings. I make sure there isn't a connection already. This connection is basically the connection that connects to the sockets and all that WSA functionality. So I set it up in the class so it's a lot cleaner. So I make sure there isn't a connection already. I update the client state to be a, hey, I'm connecting, and then I create the network connection, right? So I create the connection from the server IP address to the port, from the port and the port, and I have a callback that gets called. So on receive server data. So when the socket receives data from the server, it will call this function and it will do all the things that you got to do in handling that data. I will show you that in a bit. So you can use this connection connect using the settings. So if you want to connect manually using the port by yourselves, by the parameters, and it does this thing. Actually, why don't we just clean this up a bit? It's doing the same thing. So let's see what you want. Oh, let's do this actually. Right. We can do that. Just clean it up a little bit more. So this the same. Like I said, this is still the first iteration, and I had 2 weeks to do it. So actually a little less than 2 weeks, but I'm still constantly improving this. So, and I don't think I even need that either. I mean, it's already doing it in here. What I got to do though is do more error handling. So like right here, I return, but I mean, yeah, just error handling that I need to do in the future. But that's what you're gonna do. Connect using settings. Connect. Call it disconnect. You know, if you wanted to disconnect from the server, I mean the connection, and that's about it right now. I can show you the received data that I mentioned earlier. So this is what when the server sends data to the client, it'll get as a sharp pointer, and then here I call the parse server data. So what this is doing, because sometimes what I'm doing is sending JSON packets, right? JSON string packets, and sometimes you can receive multiple packets in that chart data pointer. So what I'm doing, I'm just splitting it into a vector so I can handle it accordingly down here. So if I ever get multiple server packets, then it separates them and then I iterate through them. So once it goes in, iterates to the the data, I unpack it, converts it to a JSON node, and then I check a data type. And the data type is when you send data to the server, or the server is sending data to the client, it will tell you what kind of data is being sent, what type of data. So it could be like a join lobby, and disconnected, error, or if you want to like join the room. In the future, I'm most likely going to be changing this so that it's actually in numbers instead, like a byte, because that's most likely better than doing it with strings. So that's probably something in the future that I can do, or I could probably do both. It depends on the developer, right? And a developer who's ever making this networking stuff. But yeah, as a first iteration, this is fine. Something that can be improved upon as later iterations happens. So if if the data type is join lobby, I update the client state to be like, hey, I have joined the lobby. I disconnect if it's disconnected, or if it's an error, I print it out. Otherwise, it's going to be like it's either a room or it's an unknown data type. But so if the room has not been created, I check to see if the data type is join the room, and if it is, then you create that room object. I keep track of some callbacks where to send to the server, to send data to the server, so that has to be handled for the room, and a callback for on that network entity, and I have a misspelling there. I'll work on that later. So it's a callback when an entity gets added into the into the client. It lets the client know like, hey, there's a new entity being created, and then you spawn the ship or whatever you need to spawn. But I will go more deep into it when I get to it. And then yeah. So and if I join the room, either if I joined the room like just recently, or there's a room already, I then handle the message accordingly. Depending on the data type, I will go in there in a bit, and that's about it. What this network manager is doing. There's still so much more that this network manager should be doing, but like I said before, later iterations, right? And that's about it. So let's go into the room. So like before, this is the room object, and this is the handle message that handles all the messages for this room. So you're gonna have one for ping that's gonna keep track of the server time. And if you join the room, it handles the join of the client. And if this is the first time being called, the way that I handle it is that when you first join the room, you're gonna be the first one calling this function message on join. So you're always gonna be first. And if you haven't not been created, it's the first time you create your network user object, and then send a packet to the server to say, hey, synchronize the room. And what this synchronize the room does is to, let's say this room was already been created before and I just joined the room. I tell the server like, hey, give me an information of what's going on in the room, what entities are in the room, to send those back to me so that I can spawn it into my own client. So if there's other users and all that, and then this synchronized room will get called, the server will call back and call this function to synchronize the room. So I send the data and then I receive the data with the same type. I synchronize the room. I probably can change the name of them, but as of right now, I just wanted to keep it the same, just to make it like, hey, it's easily readable. So I synchronize the room. It'll give me an array of entities that are in this room already, and then I add it. So I add the entity, and then I eventually call that callback that I mentioned earlier into the network manager. And that's what that is doing on the handle join. If you wanted to leave, it does the same thing. I leave. If it's me, like I'm the one leaving the server for some reason, you don't care what's actually in this room already, so you clear everything, destroy everything, all other entities, and just do a little cleanup, right? So right now, when you leave the room, I destroy the entity right away. But I know there's certain situations maybe you don't want to delete it. Like maybe you want to change to a different room. I don't know. I'll just put a to do there in case I ever wanted to do that. But as of right now, I just automatically delete them. So that's the one. So if you wanted to leave, entity add. The server sends that to all the clients when an entity first gets created on the server. So when a user joins and sends data to the server like, hey, I'm a new person, it will create an entity object for that, and then when the entity object gets created, you broadcast it to all the clients in the room and even yourself, and you will receive that data like, hey, there's a new entity, and then you will add it. You will call the add function. And then for entity updates, so when you move, let's say I'm in the server, I'm moving, I send broadcast to the server like, hey, my user has moved. Not broadcast, I will send data to the server that, hey, my user has moved. It'll keep track of that position and then broadcast it to all the other players or all the other clients like, hey, this entity has been updated. So that's what this entity update does. It updates the entity and updates the positions. And then I already went for a synchronized room, so I don't need to go through that. And that's basically the meat and potatoes in here and what this is doing. So nothing crazy. Like entity update, you'll get the network view. I will show you what network view does in a bit. But the network view is basically a component that keeps track of your entity, and this is going to be where you can be sending positions to data, or you can handle remote entities that are not yours. So, and then if there's been updates for that entity, I will call this on entity update. Most likely, that's right now how this is being handled, is that never gets called for yourself, but it gets called for. You will receive this function for remote entities in your client. So if another client has been updated and they're sending their position data into the server, then you will receive this update net entity callback. And that's about it. It's super simple, high level of what's going on. And then, like I said, this is a network view. This is what's going to be attached to your entity. This is a component class. And yeah, so when you initialize the state, when you create the entity, you pass in the entity, it will tell you if you're the owner. So if it's yours, then you can be the one sending the position to the data, sending the positions to the server. Otherwise, you're sending it. Otherwise, you're waiting to listen for remote positions that are coming from other clients, right? So if you're the owner of this network or this entity, you just keep track of your positions, rotations and angles. And if there's been updates, then you send the position to the server, right? So it keeps track of this, it creates a JSON out of that network entity, and then you send it to the server. Otherwise, if you're not, and you're a remote entity, like I mentioned before, remote entities are other game objects or entities in the room, or like say like other ships that are not yours, that other clients are moving, and it will interpolate or extrapolate their positions. So it will handle all their positions, lerping them together, because you don't want to actually set it to what the. So when it comes to interpolation, you don't want to actually set it to what the server is giving you, because otherwise it could keep jumping, right? You want to interpolate and smoothly move to that position. So you lerp those positions. Same thing with rotation. You want to lerp to those to wherever the next position or rotation is going to be at. Extrapolation is basically mostly about you don't have any information on what's going to happen to the entity and where it needs to be at in the future. So you were kind of do like some type of prediction using their velocity. You know where it's going to be at, where it's going to be using the velocity, and you have the direction, and you kind of predict where it's going to be at. So that's what extrapolation is going to be doing, and that's basically what the network view is doing. Either if you're the owner, you're sending position to the server to let everybody else know that, hey, there's been updates for this person, or you're handling remote entities that are not yours, and you're trying to interpolate the positions to where it's going to be at, or extrapolate them. Like I said, this is all like first iteration, and it's going to be updated later on. But right now it's super simple. It's not. Let me build it real quick. It's not like too crazy right now, but for 2 weeks, it's not too bad. And then let's go to the server real quick. I was thinking of what I was going to do with the server, if it was going to be in C++ or something else, and I was like, you know what, let's go and do it on Node.js TypeScript. Just because it's actually super, it is really great, and how easy it is, and all the stuff that you have for it when it comes to Node.js, right? I don't know if any of you guys have used it, but it's like really simplified, and it's really easy to do stuff in here. Rather than C++, you will have to do something else. Like right now, I'll I will go more into it after I explain what's going on in the server. But the server is in Node.js, and I'm using TypeScript for it, so it's a mixture of both JS and TypeScript. So let's go a little bit on what's going on here. So let's go with the server, and this is where I create the server, right? So I create the connection using the server, and every time a user connects to the server, it will call this callback. No, not that, not the. It will call this, right? This is what it creates a new socket, and this is the callback that's going to be used for when a user gets connected. I create the client for this, keep track of the socket for that client, and then I have a callback for when it closes to make sure that when the entity is leaving, I remove that entity from this map that I have here. So that's what this callback's doing. I then add it to this map, or I think it's a set. No, it's a map. And then on server, on socket data on data, is a listener that's going to be when the client is sending that. When the client is sending data to the server, and you will handle that data accordingly. And then I send so like the C++ side, like, hey, I have joined the lobby, and you will handle that data on their side, which I just showed you recently. So that is what's doing. So let's go into this receiving thing, right? So this is the data that's being received from the client side, and you will handle this accordingly. You unpack it, convert it to JSON, and do all those things that you need to do. Like keep track to see, making sure the type is valid. If the client has not joined the room, they will handle that data in this class or this TypeScript. And so let's go in there real quick, and this is what it's doing. So it handles to say, hey, I'm creating a room, joining a random room, join the room, leaving rooms, and it creates the room accordingly. So if I want to create the room, I create it. So let's go through this first before I don't want to keep jumping back and forth. So I create the room, or I call the join a random, or I'll call join room or leave room. That's all the messages what this server is doing, and then I'll call this accordingly. What is that? Oh, I clicked the wrong thing. I will then check to see if this room is already in here, and if it is not, yeah, so if this room's already been created, I return back false, like, hey, I don't want to create it, this is already created. And then you'll let know the client side, like, hey, you failed to enter room because it's already been created, and all that. Join random room. I make sure that this room is created, and if it's not been created, I also pass in another value to say, hey, I want to create this room or not. And then if you do, you keep going, otherwise it returns false, and then lets the client know, like, hey, you couldn't join this room. But if you do want it to create it, it creates it. It handles the on join and returns true, and sends the data back to the server, like, hey, I have joined this room. Sends that data back to the client to let the client know, like, I've joined this room. And the same thing for join the room. I clicked the wrong thing again. And yeah, that's about it. Nothing too crazy. I have to do here is making sure that clients are not already in this room. I'm not sure why you would do that, but it's good to have those checks. Probably handle that later. And like before, I make sure that this room is created, and if it's not, I return false. Otherwise, I join it. And that's about it, guys. That's about it. What the server's doing. This is on leave. So if I make sure that this room is available, I mean not available, it's actually created before. And if it's not, I return false. Otherwise, I handle the on leave message and then check to see if this room is empty. And if it is, I delete this room. But I do have it to do here because I know there's situations where you want to keep the room alive in case someone else joins the room or something, right? I have it to do for that and to implement that in the future when it comes to it. And that's about it right now. Let's go into rooms real quick. It creates this room. It will call this on create function to handle the creation of this room. I'll have some callbacks that I listen to. It has the ping, which is what I mentioned earlier, is what it pings when the client sends the ping, that it wants to retrieve the ping of the server time to the server from the server. It will send that to the server to then handle it here, and then it'll send that back to the client to let it know like this is the server time right now. If you want to remove an entity, you remove an entity, and then you have all entity updates, create entity, and synchronize the room like I mentioned before. So the create entity is the one that adds the entity to the room. So as of right now, it creates the entity. It keeps track of that data, which is just all it's doing is, it keeps track of the positions, rotations, and angles. So it saves that data. It keeps track of it in the map. Like keep track of what entities, clients are part of that entity, and then you broadcast it to all the clients in this room to like, hey, I added an entity. This entity being added, and let them know. And then you have entity updates, which just keeps track of that updated position and broadcasts it to all the rooms. To all the clients in this room. And yeah, that's about it, guys. Nothing too crazy going on here. This is when you join. The first time we'll send a broadcast it to everybody like, hey, this user has joined this room. And that's about it. Nothing too crazy. That's just super simple right now. So let's start this server. I made some cleanups before. I cleaned up a little bit of the code right before this, so I'm hoping that this works right off the bat without any issues. So fingers crossed. Hold on, let me check the server. Yeah, looks like it connected. So let's move this a little bit to the side. So I have that. Let's create the other client. Ooh, let me see. It's crossing fingers that all this stuff works. Oops, my bad. And it's still I still need to tweak their positions and lerps values and all that, so don't expect it to be super smooth, but I'm just showing you that this is actually, there we go. Woo! Look at that. Look at that. I gotta get this mouse to stay on screen. I turned it off. I turned it off because otherwise I will not be able to move the mouse outside and click the other client to show you guys. So let's move this one over here. Oops. I think the network culling is too crazy right now. And there's some other guys over here too. I think that's probably, am I too far? Am I looking the wrong way? Where are you looking at? Oh, there I am. Cool. So there you go, guys. It's super, it's not super simple. So there you go. I got some stuff going on here. And yeah, this is what's happening right now. So this is where I have it for 2 weeks, and it's the first iteration, so don't expect it to be too crazy right now. Definitely going to be improving this over time as I create more games in my engine. I'm gonna be improving this networking a lot better. This is like the first iteration of this game. This networking. So, but I'm definitely excited to to see where it's at. Ooh, there we go. Yeah, the network culling is too strict right now. There we go. But and the other thing I wanted to mention, as you can see, is like, why am I using a blocky ship or a voxel ship? And I was testing because I got very excited. I've been watching like videos recently about ships being like in a voxel, like voxel type of objects or game objects, and I was like, hey, that looks super cool. And I have the ship and I have the asteroid as for voxels, so I'm just experimenting it right now and seeing where it's at. Cool. Let's make sure. So that's about it, guys. I haven't nothing else that I wanted to that I've added recently. I think my next steps right now, oh, I lost my mouse, is to create this UI thing that I need to do. I actually created a, where is my, hold on, let's open my, I ended up creating this Trello board where I wanted to, I'm still gotta add more stuff, but I added like, hey, I fixed the entering instance stuff that was happening with the projectiles not destroying themselves. I forgot the other bug. I figured out the issue for that and fixed it. And this is like the resolved bugs that are happening right now. Like right now I can add like, I can add the culling is too strict for now, you know. Things that I need to still add is the sound. I gotta add that back. Some other stuff that I need to add, and then UI. Mostly this is what I can be using for UI. I am GUI, and look into that and figure out how to add that into my system, into my engine. And yeah, that's probably gonna be like the my next step right now. Ooh, I do love the fog, dude. It looks so cool. You see some enemies in the back. I also fixed their rotations, right? Because it was moving backwards. So that is fixed as well. That looks so cool, bro. I really enjoy this game sometimes. Not all the time, actually. But I wanted to mention one last thing. The reason why I chose Node.js as my server is because it makes things pretty easy when it comes to like debugging things, right? You can easily like listen to a web page right now. If you listen to the web page, you can return something to display something on the web page right now. So if I went there right now, let's say I go to here. It returns this. It returns the rooms and their names really easily. You didn't have to do that much work for you to display that information. So right now, when you go to localhost to that port 2568, it returns this as a JSON and returns all the room names and displays it here. And you could easily make like a quick like a dashboard and stuff like that. Display like maybe for debugging purposes. Display how many people are in this room and display those kind of things, right? So I can even display all the clients. We can update it real quick if we want. Let me check to make sure this. Cool. Just wanted to make sure it was recording. So yeah, so let's create a function real fast. We can. That means I'm gonna have to restart everything again, but. What do I want to do with this real fast? Okay, so this returns all the rooms, returns that. I can, actually I don't even need to do that. Actually, yeah, I can use this for now. So, yeah. So if I were to create a function, let's call it retrieve clients. We'll just leave it like that. And we can do something similar to what this is doing. This is just for testing to show you guys real quick. So it's not going to be like this for sure. So, and this is going to be client. And the rest stays the same, right? Key map, yep. And what you can do here, you can just show you can just return the ID of the user, or you can even go further and say JSON.stringify. Oops. Which get the ID. You get the ID, session ID, and you get the session ID, and that's it. I'm gonna leave it like that because I'm deleting it afterwards. So no clients or no clients or whatever. So let's restart this. My game does not handle restarting on the server, so I'm gonna have to restart everything again. And if you go to this to the website right now and I refresh, and it says now that there's no more rooms, right? Well, actually, I haven't called this yet. Let's go here. We can say clients, and then say server dot retrieve clients. So let's save it, and let's go back to the web page. And now it says no clients. And then if I went back and started one of the game, we can return this. And then I went back to the web page and refreshed, and it says now I'm in test room, and it shows the ID of that user in through here. And if I started another one, so let's start the other one real fast, and then boom, yeah, it's the other client ID here. And yeah, that's super simple. But yeah, this is the reason why I like this, because it's easily, you can create this. You could create like an awesome looking dashboard and using this data to display information, debugging information, or showing, you know, other stuff that the server is doing and all that. So yeah, but yeah, now this is like I said before, this is like a first iteration of this game, and there's still so much more that I need to do. This is not final. I know there's things I need to take account for, like security reasons and all that, making sure everything's secured. But as for 2 weeks, I think I'm in a pretty good spot. You know, I can do this, and the enemies are not network either, so that's another thing I can also implement and update in the future. So right now they're all different random enemies, and they're not in the same spot as the other ones are. But cool. Dude, I really love the fog here. I'm sorry. So great. And I want to double check to see if there's nothing else I wanted to bring up. Alright, look at all these guys. There's 3 enemies in front of me. Yeah, I got I think the ship size is a little bit too big, so I have to probably make it a little bit better or smaller. And this is just for me testing purposes. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video. So that's gonna be my next step for UI. But another thing I wanted to mention is that I'm probably gonna be giving my game engine a little pause right now for like maybe like the next 2 weeks or so, because I wanna bring back a game that I worked on a while back, and it was done in Unity, and it was released on the Windows Phone 7. I want to, and it's not there anymore because I needed to update the project to do some other things I forgot, and they removed it from there. So I still have the code for it. Let me see if I can show you guys real quick. All right, it has opened up. Okay, so this is the game that I was working on a while back in the Windows Phone 7, as I mentioned previously. And as this was opening up, I know I kind of lied a little bit to you guys, and I said I made this in Unity, and it was not. It initially wasn't XNA. It was something that was done back in the day when XNA was a thing, and I lost that project, and I don't know what happened to it. And a few years ago, I decided to recreate it again and using Unity, and I never came back to it again, and I got to where it's at right here. And a couple months ago, I realized I have it in my PC. I didn't know I still had it, and I found out that it was still here, and I had to upgrade it to the latest Unity. Well, at the time when I opened it up, it was 2020.3, and I had to upgrade it. I don't know if it still works or not. Let's see. Ooh. Okay. Yeah, there we go. It's not working too much. Not too great with the mouse right now. I need to figure out what's going on right there. But yeah, it was basically this type of game here, and it's all about like everything's space shooter, guys. I love space shooter games. I have no idea why, but it's all about all these. You gotta shoot ships on the top, and that's where it looks like where it's at right now. Yeah, so it's nothing too crazy right now. Just destroying all these ships on the looks of it, all these patterns that's going on. I still gotta do other stuff, but the reason why my game engine space shooter, the 3D one that I added networking to, had voxel ships, is maybe because I want to add voxels into this game that I plan to release. I want to release a game, and this is where I want to return this back and release it on Android, or maybe in iOS as well. So this is my plan for the next 2 weeks, to continue working on this development on this game, and let's see how it looks, and see how if voxel ships looks good or not. And I plan to make dev blogs videos of this too. I hope you guys are interested in that, and I'm gonna be releasing that. It's gonna be a separate dev blog for maybe every 2 weeks or so, depending how fast I do stuff in here. But yeah, if you guys are interested, I'll be posting that up and giving you my development process as I'm making this game, and giving you guys a little bit of sneak peek of this game. And yeah, everything's space shooter, guys. Everything's space shooters. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video, and hoping you guys are looking forward to the next video. And yeah, if you did enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up if you can. It does help me out a lot. And if you didn't, then you give it a thumbs down, or don't do anything. But either way, I appreciate you guys for being here, no matter what's going on. And I hope you guys are doing great, and have a wonderful night today. And I'll see you guys next time, and see where this goes. Hold on, I'm trying to see where I can kill these guys. What's going on? Are they super powerful or what? Yeah, I can't get these guys for some reason. It's only 2 now, right? Or 2 the other way. Got it. But I can't get these guys. But anyways, I'm stuck here. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Signing out.